Where's that reset button?
A dream. I had been reliving the tragic moments of my recent past. Thanks to the hyper beam, which was given to me somehow by the baby, I laid Mother Brain to waste. And the explosion that followed destroyed planet Zebes, along with the remains of Mother Brain, the space pirates, and my long-standing nemesis, Wrigley, and the baby.
Come on, Samus. Let's go next door.
Looks like you took quite a bit of damage. It's unbelievable how well you've held up.
I wondered if this too was a result of the power the baby gave me. Not even a fragment. None of the baby remained on me. I knew it to be true, but still couldn't help looking at my palm for a sign. Never again would I encounter the baby. Never.
Hello, welcome to Devil's Advocate. Metroid has a special place in my heart, with Metroid Prime being one of my top 3 favorite games of all time, and ever since the third one came out 10 years ago, I've been dying for a sequel. The atmosphere and ambience, the quiet electronic music, the tight gameplay, the lore behind every creature, item, space pirate, and Chozo artifact. These games are crafted from the ground up with special attention to every little detail that was rarely seen in video games for its time. However, after 3 incredible games, the franchise sadly went quiet. On June 3rd, 2009 though, an announcement was made at E3. A new Metroid game was being co-developed by Nintendo and Team Ninja, a company less known for its plots, atmosphere, and characters, and more known for the Dead or Alive series. A game that's not just known for being sexy, but for being $1,200 worth of sexy. When tasked with making a game in which the main female protagonist was known for wearing more armor than a medieval knight, and realizing it wouldn't be practical to just put boobs on the outside of the armor, Team Ninja definitely had the work cut out for them. But if Harvey Weinstein can produce Shakespeare in Love, then who's to say Team Ninja can't make a good Metroid game? Let's find out. This is Metroid Other Rim. The story begins with Samus investigating a vessel known as a bottle ship, after hearing a distress signal known as a baby's cry. And get used to wordplay involving moms or babies, cause there's like 500,000 of them. Upon docking, she encounters the squad she had in the intergalactic space war, I guess? The squad consists of the usual fare of expendable characters whose only defining traits are being incompetent and dying, with the exceptions this time being Point Man and friend Anthony Higgs and Commanding Officer Adam Malkovich. After nearly 10 minutes of inner monologuing about how big of a twat Adam is, he eventually decides to let Samus help on the mission, and the group sets off to solve the mysteries of the bottle ship. And let's just get this out of the way real quick. The voice acting is easily among the worst I've ever heard in a video game. Samus drawls out her lines like she's reading out bingo numbers at a retirement home, and she just goes on and on.
The thumbs up sign had been used by the Galactic Federation for ages. Me? I was known for giving the thumbs down during briefing. My past has left me with an uneasy soul, and as a result, it touched me on some level that Adam would acknowledge that past by calling me something delicate, like lady. My thumbs down was a twofold response. A sign of derision at being called a lady, and a signal of my complete understanding of the mission orders.
And on.
I was a child, always with something to prove, a chip on my shoulder.
This is the kind of voice acting you expect to hear during the PS1 days, but not in 2010. It's right up there with the original Resident Evil, and even makes Breath of the Wild's voice acting sound like Uncharted in comparison. But even Gwendolyn Christie couldn't make writing this bad sound engaging. Over and over we're forced to hear about how awful Adam is, and yet he's the only one who understands Samus. Though it's supposed to come off as tough love, It always just seems so one-sided. You'd think Samus has a bad case of Stockholm Syndrome. As Samus and the crew search for clues on the ship, the members find themselves with a traitor among them, dubbed the Deleter by Samus.
Until I found out who it was, I decided to call the traitor the Deleter.
I just said that. He goes around killing off the other members of the team until there aren't any left, and we're left to assume they just forgot to actually make one of them the bad guy. Or maybe it was Anthony. I don't know. The story and voice acting are nothing short of terrible. The game shines when it comes to its gameplay. A sort of mix between the 2D Metroids and the Prime series, the game features set camera angles in each room and allows you to move freely throughout them. You'll explore the rooms in 3 dimensions and occasionally enter first-person mode to search for secrets or target specific areas. The combat plays more similarly to the 2D games, focusing less on aiming and more on dodging and attacking. Samus also has a couple new moves at her disposal this time, the ability to do a short dodge and a lethal strike, which is pretty much what it sounds like. All in all, the gameplay is actually pretty good. Samus controls well and the combat is fast-paced and responsive. I could see some people being upset with how fast-paced it is when compared to the older Metroid games, but for the most part, I think they found a pretty good balance. There are a few hiccups, however, like the occasional part that forces you to search for some specific pixel-sized item in first-person mode, like a Where's Waldo book. Samus also has the ability to refill her ammo on the fly, which I could have done without, but nothing really major. The biggest departure of the game, besides the voice acting, is how they handle the power-ups, and it's probably the most criticized aspect of the game. Well, besides the voice acting. So, in past Metroid games, Samus has always had to find various power-ups in order to progress through the game. These could range from new bombs, missiles, beams, or even suits. However, they did it a little different for this game. See, usually Samus shows up to a planet with only her basic suit and beam, but in this one she starts the game with most of her abilities already unlocked. I guess this is her New Game Plus. Now, with all her abilities already unlocked, you'd think this game would be a cakewalk. She can just walk in, shoot a super missile of Ridley's ass, and be on her way to Space Chipotle in no time. However, despite being armed to teeth, there's just one thing preventing her from being like Ripley from the end of Aliens, as opposed to Ripley from the beginning of Aliens. This douchebag. You see, before Samus can use any of her fun toys, she needs a permission slip from her parental guardian, and since Space Barney killed the one she had, she now has to rely on Commander Cardboard.
Now let's make one thing clear. I think this is a completely terrible decision. It completely undermines Samus by having her follow somebody else's orders, even on behalf of her own judgment. But this show isn't called Let's Echo the Same Popular Opinion You've Heard 1,000 Times. No, this show is called Let's Argue Against the Same Popular Opinion You've Heard 1,000 Times. So, here's why it almost isn't the worst decision ever.
1. Samus has known Adam all her adult life. This was not only her commanding officer during her time with the Galactic Federation, but also the closest thing to a father figure she has.
The closest thing to a father I had.
I just said that. But more importantly, it's someone she trusts. So, out of respect and trust she has for him, she decides to let him call the shots. And why not? He's never given her any reason not to trust his judgment so far. Secondly, for the most part, the decisions Adam makes actually all make sense. He doesn't want her shooting bombs and super missiles all willy-nilly in an unknown space station. Sounds like pretty sound advice. However, there is a flaw to this that almost undermines it entirely. Samus won't do certain things, like putting on her life-saving heat-resistant Varia suit, until Adam tells her, after she's already needed it. Things like this make Samus feel less like she's following orders and more like she needs guidance to know what to do. Now, there's 3 things they could have done to make this infinitely better. First, instead of having Adam tell her to activate her suit halfway through a volcano, instead have her have to find it. Maybe Adam even gives her the command and location to it before entering. This would make him a much more competent leader, as it not only shows he cares about your well-being, but it also shows that he has intel that you don't, like knowing the dangers of the ship and how to overcome them. The second thing they should have done is make Adam more likable. Show us some of the good times he's had with Samus. Make us like and respect him the same way she does, and do so before he starts making crazy decisions. Samus may have known him her whole life, but we've only known him for an hour, and he's been kind of a dick in that hour.
That information is not for an outsider.
Yeah, there's a difference between being tough and just being an ass. Take the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3. She breaks your arm and throws you off a bridge, and she's still considered one of the greatest characters in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. When we have no attachment to the character and he starts telling us what to do and belittling us after 10 games, you're instantly going to resent him. I mean, imagine if the boss just started telling Snake how awful he is at his job. You wouldn't like that. No one wants that. Samus coming off as a pushover aside, there's actually another problem with it. In the other games, finding an item was always a highlight. The excitement of getting an item after a tough boss fight was rewarding, and having to locate them was challenging. But when you're simply given permission to use the weapons you already have, all that is taken away. It no longer involves you searching an unknown planet for ways to continue your quest. Instead, it makes for a much more linear game with a set progression. And yeah, it needs to be said that having to see the silent killing machine we grew up with seems so weak and timid like this, it leaves a bad taste. And combined with some of the other scenes, like the infamous freak out when facing Ridley, a monster she's faced 5 times now, it really just left people feeling like Samus was intentionally made weaker and more emotional. I mean, imagine if suddenly Master Chief was carrying fear of a brute and he needed the Arbiter to save his ass. Now remember, I said there was 3 things they could have done to make it better. And I think this last one is the most important one. Make the game a prequel! Everything would have been okay if this was the first adventure she went on. Adam giving orders, her freak out with Ridley, her gross incompetence. Everything would have been fine if she was just starting out. But no, they went and put this at the very end of the god-darn canon. This undermines everything about Samus by having her appear weak and scared after having faced all these threats and more so many times already. With this one small change, suddenly everything makes sense. She freaks out when she sees Ridley because, holy crap, it's the dinosaur that killed my parents. She listens to Adam because she's not a seasoned professional yet. In fact, maybe she's still trying to prove herself, and maybe this is a coming-of-age story where she realizes she's the only one capable of saving the galaxy from these types of threats after seeing all her old friends die. In fact, you know what? Just take the new Tomb Raider reboot and put Samus in it. There! I fixed it!
So it's Metroid Other M. Does it deserve all the hate it gets? In this case, I'd say yes. For the most part, people do seem to acknowledge that the game is fun to play. But there's just no denying that its voice acting and the storyline are just awful. But if you can look past that, or, I don't know, you're deaf, the game is fun to play. Though it's not the best in the franchise, in fact, I'd rank it pretty close to the bottom for me, the game is worth playing, maybe even multiple times. But if you just can't get past this interpretation of Samus, I don't think anyone would blame you. Let's just hope they don't do it again. This is Devil's Advocate, and if you enjoy Metroid Other M, then this video is for you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. You've been authorized to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have a suggestion for another video in the future, make sure to leave a comment down below.